Good afternoon to you. Mark Stott with HurricaneTrack.com here. It is Sunday the 15th of August 2021, and we have a lot to talk about in the tropics today. We have Fred, now back from being an open wave. It has become a tropical storm again, and I think this is going to start to raise quite a ruckus for our friends along the Florida Panhandle and then into the deep south. Just goes to show you that even though these systems can degenerate and open back up into what we call a tropical wave again, and not a closed circulation. You remember Harvey did that back in 2017. That's an extreme example. Opened up into a wave and then became a Category 4 in very short order before becoming one of the most expensive tropical cyclone events in U.S. history. It does happen. Fred shouldn't do that. The situation is not nearly the same in terms of the overall synoptic setup. But nevertheless, it is back. It's a tropical storm. There are warnings and so forth up. We'll go over that in detail in a moment. What is that? Near Bermuda, right up there. 96L. Well, we'll talk about that too. And then, of course, we have Grace. And if you just look at the satellite snapshot there of our title graphic, you might think, ooh, that's a pretty formidable looking system too. But you got to look kind of under the hood, as they say, and you can find that it's a different story. So we'll talk about all of it here in this afternoon's update. First of all, the broad satellite animation in the Pacific. You have Linda out here, an annular hurricane, meaning that it's lost its banding. It's just this big ball of convection circulating around a large eye, has sort of a truck tire, rotating look to it. That's what the annular hurricane part means. Generating some swell activity. I was reading about that in the public advisory. Those swells should subside. And then additional long period swells are coming out of the Pacific from another storm system or some other mechanism not related to Linda. Consult your local weather service products, as they say, if you want to know about your local area. I did check for Southern California, no mention of any swells from Linda. Doesn't mean they're not there, but I didn't see them get mentioned, probably because it's 5,000 degrees outside and nobody goes outside or they burst into flames. Not down at the coast, but anyway, I'm joking. All right, so in not the Pacific, leaving the Pacific now, in the Gulf of Mexico, we have Fred that has come back from being an open wave and is trying to get its act together here over the eastern Gulf. A little bit more north and east with the center reforming than was anticipated, and as such, the track has shifted east just a little bit. We'll look at that in more detail. You can see there is some shear over Grace over here. Rather disheveled looking overall, but there's still a lot of convective activity. Showers and thunderstorms, squally weather impacting the islands. Even our good friend Brent down in St. John, his house took a direct hit from a lightning bolt just a little while ago, and he's lost all internet there at the house. Only his phone is working, so no more live cam from St. John right now until he gets his router repaired. Ugh. Anyway. Let's take a look at what's going on. There's Linda, Category 3 now, will die away out over the cooler waters of the Pacific. Our friends in Hawaii, no worries for you. As we zoom in here to the Gulf of Mexico, where Fred is located, again, forecast to make landfall now somewhere near Destin and vicinity. That's the center. The effects, of course, will be felt away from the center all throughout this area, and even to the west of the center some, but mainly to the east. And, this can waver a little bit. This is just the forecast of the center. Where the center is supposed to be, it tells you nothing of the overall impacts, which can, at the coast, bring storm surge down here, squally weather, heavy rain, waterspouts, tornadoes, high rip current threats, you name it. And it doesn't stop at the coast. I mean, sometimes you got to be reminded of this. It all moves inland. So this is going to go up through Montgomery, the I-65 corridor there, at least parts of it, and into the southern Appalachians, where the flood threat from this could be a big issue as well. So you got to watch Fred. It doesn't take a hurricane. I have to remind folks of this. People that live down there, in fact, let's zoom in just a little bit, and you start to get the place names. Folks along the Forgotten Coast and even the big developed areas of the Emerald Coast, they know. If you live down there, you know what to expect. You know how to judge each of these in your own way because you've lived there a while. But people that are visiting or maybe just moved there, and believe me, there's a lot of people on vacation this year for a lot of reasons, and they may not understand what's coming. They see this on TV or an app or on a Facebook post or something. Oh, it's coming into Destin. I don't have to worry about it. I'm over in Panama City Beach or Laguna or Mexico Beach, no problem. Well, that's the center. You still could have some big bands and some squalls headed your way as far east as Appalachia Bay, St. Mark's area. You know, the Alligator Point, Horseshoe Beach, all the way over to Cedar Key. All of those areas are going to have impacts from this to a certain degree. What those are specifically, I can't tell you. Nobody knows for sure. But just always remember, as I say, this is bigger than you are. And so you got to pay attention to it, especially as it goes inland. A major flood risk coming up, especially for the mountainous areas of upstate South Carolina and western North Carolina. The Piedmont to the Appalachians, this is going to have impacts. And people need to be aware of that. People traveling on the interstates through Florida, Georgia, the western Carolinas, this is going to be a problem, all right? Now, shifting down towards the Caribbean, where we have Grace, get rid of me for a sec, south of Puerto Rico, but at least the center is, what center of it there is. Interesting, it's probably all this energy is going to end up going across these big islands here. And yes, I think Grace will eventually dissipate, unless it does something funky like somehow reform up on the north side and move this way. I'll talk about what do you mean by that? I'll show you in just a minute. It's possible, but not likely. More likely, this will dissipate over the big islands, and then we have to watch and see where do those remnants come together over here somewhere down the road. This is the forecast that the Hurricane Center is going with now. I would say it is highly subject to change. Makes sense. All right, so a couple things about Fred. Storm surge, peak surge, 1 to 3 feet in areas from Indian Pass to the Alabama-Florida border. That's worst case scenario. Some of these bays, especially where you get a strong squall and good onshore flow, good solid flow. 2 to 4 feet up here in Appalachia Bay in the usual areas like St. Mark's and vicinity, and then 1 to 3 feet down and past Cedar Key and that vicinity. You know, this big area, this concave shape, traps the water, so it's very easy for it to rise. In addition to storm surge, I alluded to this earlier, the rain threat, especially, you know you're going to get it along the coast. But in the high country up here, this elevated terrain coming out of the Appalachians here, you get the orographic lift where the mountains squeeze out the moisture, some very heavy rain in there, 4 to 6 inches in a short period of time. People are vacationing here too. They're not just down at the beach. They're enjoying the Blue Ridge and vicinity. You know, the waterfalls up here, those are going to run high. Be careful. Be mindful of this. The flash flood potential from the Weather Prediction Center increasing over the next few days. Not quite up to moderate yet, but enough so that you need to be aware of this. Much more than just a wind and pressure thing. You know, people get fixated on that. What's the category? How strong is it? You need to be thinking, what's it going to do to me? And this is at least some guidance to help you with that. Vorticity signatures, real quick. Fred coming back, getting more organized overall, especially from where it was yesterday. Pretty good vorticity signature for Grace, but it's pretty disheveled. I'll show you that on radar. A really fascinating radar from Mark Nissenbaum from Florida State. And then what about 96L up here? Well, kind of an interesting little doodad, if you will, to the north and east of Bermuda that we might have to watch. And then more energy, not mentioned yet in any tropical outlooks, south and west of the Cabo Verde Islands. So let's jump over to the San Juan radar. This is a nice long radar loop. Now, the center is supposed to be down here, according to the latest from the National Hurricane Center. I am very curious as to what all of this is up here. It might just be some upward motion going on, some convergence, and a big increase in shower and thunderstorm activity. Boy, the Virgin Islands and vicinity are really getting rocked now with some heavy rain. That heavy rain now spreading into eastern portions of Puerto Rico. Probably not going to happen, but the H-Wharf was suggesting that the center was going to try to dance up and around Puerto Rico and take off like this. So, you know, stranger things. We've seen it. Dorian did some weird things. Isaias last year. Center's down here. This is where the most vorticity is. But this does have me very curious. Why is all that going on? You know, instead of this increasing, it's increasing to the north and east. Just something to watch, because this is still in its formative stages. And yes, very strange things can happen. Real quick, let's take a look at San Juan and what the conditions are from our interactive map and live cams. This is from Carlos, one of our crowdfunding supporters. Looking north in San Juan from his apartment, kind of wet, not very breezy, just a little bit, but a lot of heavy rain headed that way, and from the area where the camera is and then points south and west, yeah, you do have some terrain down here. Hilly, mountainous, rolling terrain. I've been there. I've seen it with my own two eyes. And you get a lot of heavy rain over that, it can be a problem. Over here in St. John, bye-bye. House got hit by lightning where the camera is hosted there in the Cruz Bay area. Brent Lynn, he's all right, but he said he had sparks in the house and he lost the router. So until we get him a router, we don't have a cam in St. John any longer. But we do have a cam in St. Thomas where it's a little crooked because Tim was working on it yesterday, cleaning it off. And it's a Nest cam, and it swivels on this little magnet thing. He'll fix it later. But this is what it looks like there. You know, a little bit breezy, not very much in the way of heavy rain. It looks like it's frozen. No, it's not frozen. It's getting ready to say. That shows you it's not very windy there, and it's not raining too hard. But back to the radar real quick. This is the area that we're talking about. These are the Virgin Islands through here. At least the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas and St. John. So some pretty heavy squalls moving through. And again, it'll be interesting to see what eventually happens with Grace. I really don't know the end game just yet. Nobody does. That's why we watch this stuff. All right, so let's take a look real quick at the modeling. We're going to look at one model here, the GFS, and then I'm going to talk about my game plan related to Fred, and then we'll wrap things up. So we got three areas to watch. You have Fred down there, and then Grace, and then up here is Invest 96L. Didn't really talk about it very much just yet because it's a rather innocuous feature right there, but it is there. Northeast of Bermuda, not causing too many problems in Bermuda yet, but you got to watch this. It's an area of energy. It's a pocket. It's a seedling ready to take root at the height of hurricane season, just beginning to start here. This ramp up, this is it from here on out. Conditions should become favorable pretty much every day forward on a general scale. So let's see what we got. All right, we'll put all of this into motion frame by frame and take us out to, sorry about the arrow, there, one more time, escape, thanks. All right, still learning my hotkeys after all these years. So 12 hours out, this is valid this evening. You see Fred, I'll just point these things out real quick. There's Fred, the vorticity signature of it, looking fairly healthy, consolidated, and you can see this big curved band coming in, but it is consolidating about that center there. There's disheveled Grace, and then here's this system here, 96L. Now, let's keep on moving forward, shall we? So another 6 hours, this brings us into the early morning hours of Monday, early Monday morning, a little after sunrise in most locations. Monday afternoon, finally Monday evening, Fred makes landfall somewhere along maybe the Emerald Coast or the Forgotten Coast region. Back it up a little bit. You see how that works. And then it goes inland, and all that energy will spread into the hill country, the mountainous areas, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and we already covered that. But I want to remind you, that will be a flood threat. It's not over when it makes landfall. What about Grace down here? I almost said Fred again. Real disorganized, getting tangled up with that big mountainous island that we call Hispaniola. And so it's no wonder that it just kind of gets torn up there, loses its identity. It moves through. This is out at 90 hours, 96 to day 5. Maybe some action tries to brew. You see what I mean? Things move along. You just never know. You know, models have been kind of like horrible so far this year at really understanding anything beyond maybe 2 days, if that. So I don't know. We'll just watch Grace. For now, it's going to be a rainmaker across these areas down here in the Caribbean. And, you know, Haiti just had that terrible earthquake. They don't need the heavy rain. Nothing we can do about it, but at least be aware of it. But, you know, you don't need a giant hurricane to cause giant problems. Go back to the title page, and let's talk about my plans. Couple things. First of all, I'm proud to say that I'm celebrating my 25th wedding anniversary this weekend. Tomorrow is the wedding date. August 16th, 1996 is when I was married. And 25 years. I mean, not many people make it that long any longer these days. So this is the weekend that we've been celebrating, my wife, Rebecca, and myself. We went and saw Jim Gaffigan last night here in Wilmington, and we're just kind of hanging out today. I'm in the office, though. I got to work sometimes. She knew what she was getting into. But that's why I'm not on my way to Florida right now. That being said, I am a little concerned that Fred might try to ramp up a little stronger, and there's an outside chance that it could become a hurricane. And that's absolutely true. We all know that. Intensity forecasting is the hardest part of this whole business. And you just never know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a rental vehicle in the next hour or so, and I don't use a chase vehicle any longer, in case you didn't know that. Not really any reason to do so. So I rent vehicles when needed, and I'm going to head down to Florida starting early tomorrow morning. And I know you're thinking, well, it's your anniversary tomorrow. Well, we did the celebrating yesterday and today because tomorrow, tropics notwithstanding, we were already very busy with stuff getting ready for our kids to go back to school, with about 352 things on the calendar, despite the fact that tomorrow is our technical anniversary. So it'll be okay. My wife understands. I got a job to do. It'll probably be mostly a windshield intercept or chase, whatever you want to call it. Don't have time to get down and set up a bunch of cameras, so I'm going to jump in the vehicle early in the morning, have the vehicle cam going, and at least go see what's happening. I enjoy doing this work. I like covering the impacts, reporting from the area, and this is what I get paid to do. We do this through crowdfunding. So not only is there an obligation, but I'm happy to fulfill that obligation because I really enjoy advancing the science whenever I can and reporting on what's going on to the best of my ability. So that's the plan now, unless Fred somehow speeds up or it's farther to the east and there's just no way I could get there in time to make it worthy of me going. But right now the plan is for me to leave in the morning, fairly early, right after sunrise, and get down to the Florida Panhandle, and we'll see what happens. I'll put it live for our crowdfunding folks, of course, and we'll put it on YouTube as well, publicly available so you can follow along. I'll bring a couple cameras with me and maybe put them in a couple spots if I have time. But there's more coming, believe me. This is just the start. It's August 15th. From here on out, once we get development out there, especially in the tropical Atlantic, this is just a harbinger of what's coming. And I hope everybody's ready, because between now and the end of October, these next 45 days or so, you think these are all anemic and, kind of struggling? Well, wait a couple weeks and it's going to be a different story. I can almost guarantee it. And I have 25 years of experience to back that up. I believe it's coming. This is just the start. All right, and with that good news, you guys have a good rest of your Sunday. As always, thanks for tuning in and giving me your time and attention. I appreciate it more than you know. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll see you, 90% chance I'll see you early in the morning as I stream live on my way to Florida. I'll talk to you then.